Bears faithful, the 2026 NFL draft landscape is taking shape right before our eyes, and there's a quarterback situation developing in the AFC West that could have massive ripple effects on how our own draft board shakes out in April. And welcome to Bears News Fan Report, your go-to destination for breaking news, exclusive analysis, and all the latest updates on our beloved Chicago Bears. What I'm about to break down for you today involves a team that's making aggressive moves at the most important position in football, a decision that could shift the entire first round, and most importantly, how all of this impacts our Bears and the strategy Ryan Poles might deploy when we're on the clock at pick 25. This isn't just about another team's draft plans. This is about understanding the domino effect that happens when quarterback-needy franchises start making bold moves. And by the end of this video, you'll see exactly why we should be paying very close attention to what's happening out in Las Vegas. Let me set the stage for you because context is everything when we're talking about draft strategy and how the board falls. The 2026 NFL Draft is shaping up to be one of the most quarterback-heavy classes we've seen in recent years, and that's music to the ears of teams like us who aren't desperate for a signal caller. When multiple teams are chasing quarterbacks in the top 10, it means elite talent at other positions start sliding down the board, and that's when teams in the back half of the first round can strike gold. We've seen this movie before. Remember when the 2021 draft had 5 quarterbacks go in the top 15, and suddenly teams picking in the teens and 20s were getting blue-chip defenders and offensive weapons who would have normally been long gone. That's the kind of scenario that could be developing here, and the Bears are positioned perfectly to capitalize on it. Now, the team that's making the most noise in early mock drafts and draft circles is the Las Vegas Raiders. Pete Carroll took over that franchise with a clear mandate to rebuild, to establish a new identity, and most critically, to find a franchise quarterback who can lead them for the next decade. The Raiders have been stuck in quarterback purgatory for years, cycling through veterans, reclamation projects, and stopgap solutions without ever finding that long-term answer. Carroll isn't interested in another short-term fix. He wants his guy, and he wants him now. The Raiders are sitting at the 2nd overall pick in most projections, which puts them in prime position to land one of the elite quarterback prospects in this class without having to trade up and mortgage future assets. The name that keeps appearing next to the Raiders in mock drafts is Dante Moore from Oregon, and this is where things get really interesting for us as Bears fans. Moore is a fascinating prospect, the kind of quarterback who checks all the physical boxes that NFL teams drool over. He's got a legitimate NFL arm with the ability to make every throw on the field. His mechanics are clean and repeatable, which means he's not going to need a complete overhaul when he gets to the professional level. He shows good pocket presence and the ability to navigate pressure without panicking. And perhaps most importantly, he's shown consistent improvement and development throughout his college career, which tells you he's coachable and willing to put in the work to get better. For a team like the Raiders that desperately needs stability and competence at the quarterback position, Moore represents exactly the kind of high-ceiling prospect they should be targeting. But here's why this matters so much to us. If the Raiders take Moore at number 2, and if other quarterback-needy teams like the Jets or Titans also go signal caller early in the draft, that means elite defensive players and offensive weapons are going to be available later than they normally would be. Think about the caliber of talent we're talking about here. We're talking about potential all-pro linebackers, dominant edge rushers, lockdown cornerbacks, and game-changing offensive playmakers who would typically be top 10 picks suddenly sliding into the middle and late first round. That's the kind of scenario where Ryan Poles can work his magic, where he can add a difference maker to this roster without having to trade up and give away valuable draft capital. Let's talk specifically about what the Bears need and how this draft could address those needs. Our biggest priority heading into this offseason is continuing to build around Caleb Williams and giving him the weapons and protection he needs to succeed. We've seen flashes of brilliance from Caleb this season, moments where you can see the superstar potential that made him the first overall pick. But we've also seen him struggle at times behind inconsistent protection and with a receiving core that, while talented, could use another elite piece. The other major need is on defense, particularly along the defensive line and in the secondary. We need more pass rush, we need more pressure on opposing quarterbacks, and we need playmakers in the back end who can create turnovers and change the complexion of games. Now, according to the mock draft projections that are circulating, the Bears are slated to select at pick 25, and the player most commonly mocked to us at that spot is Romello Height, an edge rusher out of Texas Tech. Height is an intriguing prospect who brings exactly the kind of length and athletic upside that modern NFL defenses covet. At 6'5" with long arms and explosive first-step quickness, he's got the physical tools to develop into a legitimate NFL pass rusher. He's still somewhat raw and will need coaching and development to reach his ceiling, but the potential is absolutely there. For a Bears defense that's been searching for consistent edge pressure to complement Montez Sweat, Height could represent a high upside addition who grows into a starting role over the next year or two. But here's where it gets really interesting from a strategic standpoint. If quarterbacks continue to fly off the board early, if teams reach for signal callers because of positional value and desperation, there's a very real possibility that players who are currently projected to go in the teens or early 20s could slide down to us at 25. Imagine if an elite linebacker like Sonny Styles from Ohio State, who's currently mocked to Dallas at 14, suddenly becomes available because teams ahead of us are chasing quarterbacks. Imagine if a dominant interior defender or a blue-chip offensive tackle starts sliding because of the quarterback run. Those are the scenarios that Poles needs to be prepared for, and those are the opportunities that can define a draft class. The quarterback market at the top of this draft is absolutely fascinating, beyond just more to the Raiders. The mock has the Jets trading up to number 1 to take Fernando Mendoza from Indiana, which would be a massive move for a franchise that's been searching for quarterback stability for decades. The Giants are projected to trade back and then select a playmaker at receiver. The Titans are going defense after addressing quarterback in a previous draft. All of this movement, all of these decisions by other teams, creates opportunities for teams like us who are picking later and who aren't desperate at the quarterback position. This is the advantage of having your franchise quarterback already on the roster. While other teams are panicking and reaching for signal callers, we can sit back, let the board come to us, and take the best player available who fills a need. Let's talk about some of the other prospects in this draft who could potentially be available when we pick and who would make a lot of sense for the Bears. If we decide to go offensive line, there are some massive athletic tackles projected to go in the first round who could immediately upgrade our protection. If we want to add a playmaker on offense, there are dynamic receivers and tight ends who could give Caleb another weapon to work with. If we prioritize defense beyond Height at edge rusher, there are elite cornerbacks, safeties, and interior defenders who would instantly improve our unit. The beauty of picking at 25 in a quarterback-heavy draft is that we're going to have options, and Poles has shown throughout his tenure that he's excellent at evaluating talent and finding the right fit for what Matt Eberflus and the coaching staff want to do. One thing I want to emphasize is that mock drafts this far out from April are educated guesses at best. Players will rise and fall based on combine performances, pro days, medical evaluations, and team interviews. The actual draft order will shift based on how the rest of this season plays out and potential trades. But what these early mocks do give us is a sense of trends, a sense of which positions are going to be in high demand, and a sense of how different scenarios could play out. The trend that's becoming increasingly clear is that quarterback is going to dominate the top of this draft, and that's fantastic news for teams like the Bears who can capitalize on the value that creates later in the first round. I also want to talk about the broader strategy that Poles has employed since taking over as general manager. He's been methodical about building through the draft, about accumulating picks, and about finding value wherever it exists. He's not the type of GM who's going to panic and trade up unless the value is absolutely undeniable. He's patient, he trusts his evaluation process, and he's willing to let the draft come to him rather than forcing moves that don't make sense. That approach has served us well so far, and I expect it to continue in 2026. If there's a player at 25 who Poles and his staff have graded as a future star, they'll take him without hesitation. If they think the value isn't there and they can trade back and accumulate more picks, they'll do that instead. The flexibility and optionality that comes from not being desperate at quarterback cannot be overstated. Looking at the rest of the first round in these projections, you see teams like Detroit taking offensive line help, teams like Kansas City adding weapons for Patrick Mahomes, teams like San Francisco and Baltimore continuing to build their defenses. Every team has different needs, different philosophies, and different evaluation criteria. Our job as Bears fans is to trust that Poles and his staff are doing the homework, watching the tape, and identifying the players who fit what we're trying to build here in Chicago. We're not just looking for talented players. We're looking for guys who fit the culture, who have the work ethic and character that aligns with what Eberflus preaches, and who can contribute to winning football games. The Raiders taking Dante Moore at number 2 would be a significant moment in this draft because it would officially kick off the quarterback run and set the tone for everything that follows. Pete Carroll is betting his rebuild on finding the right quarterback, and if he believes Moore is that guy, it's a bet that makes sense given the alternative of continuing to search year after year. For us, we get to watch from a position of strength, knowing that Caleb Williams is our guy, knowing that we're building around him, and knowing that this draft is about adding complementary pieces who can help us take the next step as a franchise. Bears Nation, I want to hear your thoughts on all of this. Do you think Romello Height at 25 would be a good pick for us, or would you rather see us go in a different direction? Are there other prospects in this draft class who you're particularly excited about? And how do you feel about our overall draft positioning and strategy heading into April? Drop your comments below because I love hearing from you all and having these conversations about the future of our team. If you want to stay locked in on everything Bears, if you want breaking news the moment it happens, and in-depth analysis like this on a regular basis, make sure you're subscribed to Bears News Fan Report right now. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Smash that like button if you found this breakdown valuable, and share this with every Bears fan you know. I'll be back with more exclusive content very soon. Bear down.